Chag Sameach. These past few weeks walking through Central Park as spring begins, as spring has begun, it doesn't feel like spring at the moment, but I found myself stopping in front of trees that I have walked by all winter. Trees that several months ago looked dead, they look gray, they look still, and now almost imperceptibly, they are in bloom. Small buds at the tips of bare branches, bursts of pink. You can see the cherry blossoms. You can see green returning to the world. It happens every year, every spring, and yet it never feels ordinary to me. It's predictable, yes, but it's also miraculous. And maybe that's part of the message of this season. That renewal, as Rabbi Cosgrove mentioned earlier, is not a surprise. It's actually, I believe, a promise that even after the longest winters, literal or spiritual winters, life can come back, and it does. We feel it in nature. We see it in nature, and we feel it in ourselves, and we feel it deeply in the story of Pesach. But this year, for many of us, that promise of renewal feels just a bit harder to trust. This year, we come to Pesach still reeling from images over the past year and a half, images we can't unsee. The full knowledge that Jewish vulnerability is not just ancient history. It's here. It's in our time. It's in our kishkas. We know that there are still hostages in Gaza. For many of us, the ground beneath our feet has shifted. The idea of actually stepping into freedom feels distant when we hold so much fear and anxiety. So how do we sing of liberation with broken hearts? This entire festival of Pesach is built around the ideal of renewal. The Exodus didn't just mark the beginning of our freedom, it marked the beginning of our identity as Israelites, as Jews. It was when we stepped out of darkness and literally stepped into history from a people who had been passive, who had been enslaved, who had been oppressed, into a people with purpose, with freedom, with agency. That transformation is what has allowed this narrative to speak to Jews of every generation. And what's striking is that this moment of national liberation happens in the beginning of the spring and just after the Torah introduces a new way of marking time. Back in Egypt, while we were still enslaved, God said to Moses and Aaron, it actually is the very beginning of the chapter. We didn't read it this morning, but the Torah reading from Parshat Bo that we read, if you would go back several verses to the beginning of chapter 12, you would have read, HaChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodashim. This month shall be for you the first of the months. That's the first commandment that God gives to the Israelites. Not you are going to leave, but you are going to count time differently. You are going to live by a calendar that begins not when you are full and free, but actually when you are just beginning the process. The Jewish calendar, as a reminder, is a lunar calendar, and God tells us to mark time not when the moon is full and bright, but when it is merely a sliver in the sky. It's the smallest of beginning. It is, if you look up when we start the new month, it is the faintest of light. Now, why would we do that? Why not wait for the 15th? Why not begin the new month when the moon is full, when the moon is majestic? Why not count time and start with confidence, with fullness? And an answer, I think, is because God wants us to see that holiness doesn't start at the moment of perfection or the moment of completion. It begins at the moment of potential. That tiny sliver of a moon that we see at the beginning of the month, the one that's just peeking out of the darkness on a clear night, it holds within it a promise. We know it will grow, we know it will shine, and we know that it will illuminate, and so will we. The rabbis teach that Israel is compared to the moon. Just like the moon, we go through phases. We wax and we wane, we rise and we fall. There are times when we will feel luminous, when we will feel whole, strong, and there are times when we will feel diminished, uncertain, barely hanging on. But our tradition comes to teach us, don't despair in the darkness. That's not the end. It's actually just the beginning. The Aruch HaShulchan, writing in the 15th century, Rabbi Epstein understood the sanctification of the new moon as a metaphor for the survival of the Jewish people. Just as we celebrate the moon when it is barely visible, so too we have held fast to our faith when all seem lost. Even in our most diminished moments, he writes, we have never given up on the future, never stopped believing that that light would return. And maybe that's the act of faith this year that we need. Not a naive optimism, but a courageous hope. To be a Jew in this moment is to insist that even now, especially now, we will not abandon the story of our renewal. We will not let terror or trauma define our identity. Our ancestors left Egypt not just with matzah, but with the courage, because of this commandment, to mark time, to imagine a future that was bigger than their suffering. And that's the courage that we carry with us now. I was reminded of that courage just a few weeks ago when I celebrated Rosh Chodesh Nisan in Israel. Our synagogue group, the 43 of us, traveled through the country, north and south, meeting Israelis who are living this very message. And of all the moments of being in the south in Kfar Aza, of meeting with parents who have lost loved ones, there's one moment that continues to stand out for me. We visited Shtula, a small moshav, a small community on the northern border with Lebanon. It's actually right up against the border. A place where 60% of the homes have been damaged by rockets. In this moment, only 20% of the residents have returned to Shtula. So we stood together in a house under construction, just feet from the fence, just feet from the border, and we met Dudi. And Dudi is a 53-year-old reserve soldier who has been in uniform since October 7th. He is a fifth-generation Israeli whose family, he told us, walked from Odessa to make their home in the land of Israel. And when one of our participants asked him where his strength comes from, how he found the will to keep rebuilding. He's actually lived in Shtula, his family's spread out, but he's lived there since October 7th. How do you keep going? How do you keep rebuilding in the face of so much devastation? And he said the following. He said, there's a hidden hero in every Israeli. We'll do whatever it takes to stay and protect our families. I'm a fifth-generation Israeli. My family came from Odessa. The narrative Israelis grew up on is being tough, strong, overcoming whatever life throws us. We're strong. Please take that, he said. There's hope. We'll overcome. The picture is better when you have a sad story, and we have so many sad stories. But the real picture, he told us, is thriving and overcoming. Don't take sad stories with you. Take this story. And it was a message of resilience. It wasn't just for Israelis, but it was actually for all of us on this trip. Duty wasn't asking us, and no one is asking us in our own lives to deny the pain. He's reminding us that our story doesn't end there. Renewal isn't an escape from suffering. It's the decision to build again, even after loss, to plant new seeds, even in scorched earth. Now, we often picture this Jewish journey in grand, dramatic terms, especially on this holiday, the sea splitting, the plagues, the miracles. But the deeper work of Pesach is actually quieter. It's the work of individuals deciding to begin again, of believing that growth is possible, that something new can take root in us even after a long winter. And the message, it's not just for the Israelites of ancient Egypt or the Israelis rebuilding homes on the border. It's for us right now on this second day of Pesach, as we sit around our full tables and we tell our story, a story that we know by heart, even as we carry questions and struggles that might feel unresolved by you or perhaps family members sitting around your Seder. You don't have to be, as our tradition teaches us, at the full moon part of your spiritual life to be holy. You don't have to have it all figured out to be on the path. You simply have to begin. Remember, God didn't wait for us to be ready. God lifted us up where we were, fragile, overwhelmed, uncertain. But the Israelites of ancient moved forward, and in doing so, we constituted ourselves as a people. Passover embraces us to say that, to say, I may just be beginning in this area of my life. I may feel small, but I'm growing. And that too, our tradition tells us, is sacred. In the wake of so much loss of life, of innocence, of safety, renewal is not easy. In many ways, it's actually radical. And yet, that's what this season and that's what this story asks of us, to engage in the process, to plant ourselves like the moon in the dark and grow as our ancestors did toward the light. So as you walk outside this week, God willing, the sun will come out, and you'll notice the cherry blossoms, and you'll notice the daffodils, or the way the sunlight is starting to linger well into the evening. Take it as a blessing. Take it as proof that the world is actually designed for renewal. Pesach isn't only about what happened then, thousands of years ago. It's our story. We're supposed to see ourselves as part of the story, and what happened then can happen now, in you, in me, in the people we're still becoming. May we all be blessed on this Chag to honor both the full light and that first sliver, to cherish both the beginning and to cherish the becoming, and to step once more into the process of freedom, not as something that we simply remember that happened to our ancestors thousands of years ago, but something that all of us are still becoming. Chag Sameach and Moadim L'Simcha.